is she is my assistant. She's kind of pretending to be Vanna, but she's much more beautiful than Vanna, and she knows her plants too. So, like to thank you for coming, and this type of a topic. It can be a week long, a year long, so I'm going to be going through things pretty quickly. At the end, I do have a copy of the PowerPoint for you. So, yeah, it helps. I know it helps. I also have some other handouts that I'll be giving you when appropriate in the presentation. And I'll also be giving you some seeds. That's why you have the cups, for you to try to get the seeds out of the plants. How many of you garden with native plants? Good, good. How many of you start them with seed? Good. Are the rest of you gardeners of other types of plants? Yes. Anybody in a no position? Oh, right. So that's kind of what I figured, is that, you guys know things, and it's so I won't have to go into a lot of detail. So yeah. Now I'm hoping the mouse is going to work real well. Obviously it's growing native plants for food or medicine. And I am from the Alaska Plant Material Center, which is run by the state of Alaska. Most of you who know of the Plant Material Center realize that of our 400 acres, about 100 of them are in cultivation, and most of the rows of plants that we have out there are native plants that are used primarily for revegetation rather than for ethnobotanical purposes. Does anybody not know what ethnobotanical or ethnobotany means?
Why don't you just define it?
Ethnobotany. No, ethnobotany is a study of plants that were used either medicinally, for food, or utilitarianly in the past or in the present. So, here in Alaska, all of us are Alaskans. If I'm studying specifically the Tlingit or the Dena'ina, I would be looking at specifically how they used them or use them. But I mean, I'm using them all the time. So, in our case, I'm looking at everybody in Alaska that may be using. Why cultivate native plants? Well, a lot of it's that ethics. I drive the highway from Palmer to Anchorage, and I see so many people digging up irises or chocolate lilies. I see people digging up ferns and all kinds of things up at Hatcher Pass. And when I know how easy it is to grow those at home, I just go, let's do that instead of hurting our beautiful environment. It's also easier to have those plants in one place, especially if you're going to use them for medicinal use. You know what's been applied to them. Has my dog peed on them? Well, that may be one thing, but did I use some sort of Roundup around the plants? I know what's been used. I know, and I mean, I talk to my plants too. Anybody else talk to their plants? Hooray! Yeah. And Ellie's a good one too. Talk to your plants, please. So and I don't know, can you see this okay? Or should I turn off this front light?
That's fine.
Okay. When you can collect them in one place, it really is. Relatively easy to collect, much better than, you know, taking plants from the wild. If you are collecting seeds in the wild, make sure you don't over-harvest. And then take them home, and there's all kinds of ways that you can grow them at home.
Why don't you turn that light off?
Yeah, that was kind of my feeling too.
Yeah.
Go back one and see what difference in the color it makes, just for the heck of it, please, if that's possible. Maybe not.
It's up to you guys.
I mean, back
The
to the
light
or
slide.
Back on the slide.
Just she reminds you to go back to slide. Sorry,
Okay.
sorry. Can you figure that out?
Yeah, I
Never
can.
mind, never mind, never mind.
No.
I'm sure there'll be more color.
This one's so beautiful, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty.
This is up at Hatcher Pass. And obviously, you can see Kizzy's there. And as she says, you know, I mean, we can walk 2-3 feet and find plants that were used for medicinal values or can be used for edibility, you know, or utilitarian. I mean, our world is full of wonderful, wonderful plants. It's that knowledge that you need to gain to be able to use them appropriately. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, this is supposed to, all right, that's very good up. At home, I cultivate and use lots of plants, and this is just a short list. Most of these are native to Alaska. Yes, there are some that are considered not native. Dandelions, lamb's quarters, chickweed, some of the plantains, pineapple weed. But you look at the, you know, goldenrod, spruce tips, devil's club, yarrow, boreal yarrow. Everything else I think on here is native to Alaska. Growing native plants requires knowledge. And many of you have the knowledge of how to grow plants. Obviously, you know, your big thing is going to be what does that seed need? How viable is it? What kind of thing do you have to do to the seed so that it will grow? Does it require moisture? Does it require light to grow? You need to know your type of environment. What kind of soil? Wet, medium, dry, rocky, acid, organic. All of these are things that you guys know. Light, sun, shade. How can you grow these plants for easy harvest? Rows, raised beds, that's a lot in garden. But then you have to know which ones do you want to grow for what purposes. And I'll go through some of that. And there's lots and lots of references available for that. You also need to know harvest times. Harvest time for seed is really pretty easy. Your seed needs to be right. And I'll look at that for a little bit. But if you're looking at the flower, the root, the stem, the leaves, when should you harvest that so that those plants are highest in the medicinal quality that you want? And then, of course, processing of the seed or parts. And that has a lot of it. And I was kind of saying, okay, where should I start? Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? In this case, I decided to start with a seed. A seed, of course, has an embryo, it has food, and a seed coat. Basic basics. So when we were in botany or in even high school biology, your very first thing is you were looking at a seed. And whether it was a kidney bean seed or in this case a barley seed, the outer coat is your seed coat. That seed coat up here in Alaska and really any place, is going to protect the inner part of, the baby, our embryo. And here your cotyledon, of course, is your first leaves at cotyl would be the stem radical is the root. The blue represents your the food that the seed has. Native plants, and really all plants, have strategies to enable them to grow at the right time. So if we think like a seed, and almost all of our seeds fall in the fall. If that seed starts to germinate in the fall, is it going to make it? Probably not. Unless it falls, say, midsummer, and that's part of its germination requirements. One of the fun things that we do at the Plant Material Center is try to figure out propagation protocols. And some of our native plants are real easy to grow. Others are not. This is a tetrazoleum test. Has anybody ever done a tetrazoleum test, TZ test? Okay, TZ, essentially it's killing the seed, but it's allowing you to know if that seed is viable, because when you put tetrazoleum onto the seed, it stains the parts that are alive. So this seed here, the red parts, are alive. So if we have seed that isn't growing any way whatsoever, one of the very first things that we will do is do a TZ test on it. You can just use a few seeds, see if it's alive. And we've all harvested plants and the seeds have been dead. Or we've had them for 10, 20 years. Yeah. Any of us, all of us, can do this at home. And most of this is, how can we do this at home? This is a ligusticum seed, this is a yarrow seed. What you want to try to do with your seed is, again, find out at home whether it's viable. Germination tests are real easy to do. Take a paper towel, moisten it, put a few seeds. If you're doing it scientifically and you want to figure out the exact percentage, you'd put 100 seeds on there. Take that paper towel, roll it up. It's still moist. You don't want it soaking wet so it's dripping water. Roll it up. Usually, as a rule of thumb, I'll put that into a plastic bag and put it into a refrigerator for 2 weeks, or 5 to 7 days, depends upon the seed. Then I will take it out into a warm place where I would expect that seed to start growing. Keeping it in the bag, keep it in that bag, give it at least another week. Roll it out and count how many plants germinate. So usually you have your root coming up first, and now what happens? If you don't have germination, here in Alaska, we think winter stratification. Stratification means that a seed is going to go through the cold, the moist, the ice, the snow, the thawing, the freezing. It's going to go through all kinds of what our winters have. Figure a seed that falls in the fall. Usually seed keeps it very secure. If it's disseminated by the wind, it's still, if it falls on the ground, it probably needs to have something to tell it it's in the right place to germinate, or it's in the right time to germinate. Usually here in Alaska, it needs to go through that fall and winter. You can imitate it at home with a freezer and a refrigerator. There are ways to do that. But I usually use a technique where I will plant many times, and Kizzy, you might want to start passing out those protocols. But
Can I just say something?
sure,
We don't have enough for everyone, so if you're with a family or a friend that you can get a copy of, please do that, because I only have 29, and that was the original number of chairs in here. So as we added on, you know where we're at.
and Chris, can we give you one to make copies of for others?
I'm a presenter in another thing, and I've been trying to get copies made, and I've been told no. And the answer is that you should provide people your email address, or they should.
Okay, we have that.
Yeah. So
I
that they
did, thank you. I did bring my business card. So those of you that don't get one of the handouts, you know, email me and I'll send them to you. Not a problem.
Yeah, the easiest would be if you could just get it posted on the website.
I could do that too. I don't know how, who's the website.
That's okay, we'll do it.
I'll talk to, you know, I mean, yeah,
We'll figure
that's a
it
good
out.
idea, good idea. So, what I will do is, normally, I will prepare a flat or a pot with the type of soil that I know this seed is going to require. I'll put those seeds in. If it's a small seed, it probably is going to need light. So I'll put those seeds on the top of the pot. If it's a larger seed, I'll plant it down, you know, about the size of that seed inside the soil. Then making sure it's very moist, you know, it doesn't have to be soaked, but just like you're planting a seed. You want to give it that moisture. Figure that all plants are going to need moisture to grow. Then I will, you know, again, the easiest way is let our environment do it for the seeds. I take it out into a sheltered place. At home, what I've got is a big aquarium. So I put my pots or flats in that aquarium, and before it snows, I just make sure that they are kept wet. When the snow comes, you know, the snow dumps in there. Because I have it as an aquarium, you can use straw bales, you can use a sheltered place in your home. Essentially, it's protected from wind. That's what I want to do, because you don't want them to dry up. You don't want them to desiccate. So keep it so that they have the snow on top, and just let them go through the winter. Then if you want to give them a jump start, you can take them into your greenhouse earlier and let, you know, really in April, you could start having them come back from that stratification. You'll see on that protocol list that I passed around, those are protocols that we did. We worked with hundreds of different types of native plants at the Plant Material Center, looking at what way would work best. That doesn't mean that that's the only way. It just means that the ones that I've given you have made more, we've had more success in germination rates. So instead of, with those protocols, you'll have maybe 90% germinating. If you didn't do what I had said in there, whether it was to soak for 24 hours, have the rinsing water go on it to rinse off some of the germination or the chemicals that are on the seed coat that inhibit that seed from germination, or if you didn't put it in the fall, you know, you can still try to plant it in the spring, and you may have 10% or 20% come up. So these we've worked with, this has worked best for us. We're always learning. Devil's Club is one of my very, very favorite plants. I really, and probably it's because I've worked with them as babies. I've worked with those seeds, trying all kinds of different strategies to get them to germinate. Finally, it worked. I had to, and obviously I planted the seed in trays. The trays had to go through 100 days of cold, so the winter cold. Then they needed to be brought out, and they need to go through 100 days of warm. Then they needed another 100 days of cold. How many months is 100 days? And then 100 days of warm before I started getting in germination. Come on in. I was so excited. Yay! Obviously, if you want to grow plants like Lacey might for, landscape plants, the amount of time it takes to do these seeds is impractical. Devil's Club will start up with cuttings. Has anybody else done cuttings from them? Okay. Devil's Club is one of those plants that has so many wonderful medicinal properties that I use it all the time. One of the things that I use it for is to help control my diabetes. There are lots of other types of uses for it. Kizzy knows some big
I
time.
was just going to say, we use Devil's Club and the cambium from the birch bark, and cured my dad's cancer. Skin cancer. Just those two. Powerful.
Devil's Club to me is one of those that you absolutely need to have in, growing around your house. If you have too much. How many of you have too much Devil's Club? If you really want to get rid of it, there's people at South Central Foundation, at the Chickaloon Tribe, at most of the different places around native places. They would love to come out and they'll harvest it down to the ground for you and take it away. And if you over harvest it, beware. And that again comes into wild cultivation. Figure the Devil's Club grows and has, let's see, yeah. This plant came from my babies, and this this summer plant. It is, as you can see, still very small, so it takes a long time for it to grow. When you go out and look around Devil's Club clumps, you rarely see babies. So this is now 5-6 years old. The wild clumps of Devil's Club, you figure you have a mother plant, which then, as it grows up, and it has to be bigger than this, it's sending out shoots. Those shoots recline. They come down to the ground. Here at the bottom, roots form. Up comes another shoot, makes more shoots, goes down, and that same sequence happens all the way around that mother plant. So, for instance, if you have an acre worth of Devil's Club, it's probably all from one plant. Wow. Clonal. So, as in terms of harvesting, harvest on the outside. You can harvest maybe 20% of it per year so that you're not going to kill it. Don't ever go after the mother plant. So ethical harvesting, and we can get into that later. Yeah.
Can you dig up one of those shoots and transplant it?
Yes, you can. And you can also do it with cuttings.
Okay.
You want to try to go down and get those roots if you're going to do that.
Okay. Do you use it in as a tea or?
What I use it in is and I have a picture later on how to cut the inner bark off. But what you use is the portion that's in between the brown outer bark and the pithy part of the stem. So you want to get rid of those thorns, and then you scrape off that outer bark, and then you've got a green living part of the and usually I'll go for either a reclining stem or a root. That's where you'll find most of the medicinal qualities. And best time to harvest it is as it's either going dormant or is dormant. So you can harvest it fall and spring. In spring, harvest it before you start seeing leaves. In fall, start harvesting it when the leaves turn yellow and they're starting, with any bark that you want to harvest. Think of, you've got your sap rising, you've got your sap going down. That's when you want to harvest something for the utility of the bark. I usually will either dry this once I process it, I have a dehydrator, or I will freeze it, depending upon, like, for instance, to regulate my blood sugar, usually I will take a portion of this and just chew on it per day. I will also make tea out of it, and I didn't bring a lot of it in. I am not a doctor to tell you what to do. The plants that I've got over there, how much time do I have?
You've got time, but you've got a lot.
I knew
15 minutes until the questions start.
Yeah, so, and that's fine. So, yes, devil's cup, I make tea out of it, yes.
So speak to the difference between taking and cutting and spending 3 years growing a baby plant. What point here?
If you're going to, my preference, the easiest way, is if you have devil's club in your yard, wild cultivated, taking only, less than 20% per year. If you don't have devil's club, the easiest way is to either take a cutting or to dig up a root and do it that way. Seeds take way too long. It does work, but the seeds, when you see those red seeds, what we found is that each seed was immature. It was an immature embryo, which is why we had to do so many sequences to get it to grow. They are huge, and I really don't know. I would say, they probably have been around for 50 years or more. That's my thought. I don't know for sure. Yeah, wonderful. Except for if you're trying to get through them. Okay, thank you. Patience, geraniums, Aquilegia, the columbines, delphiniums. Many times, even when they go through that stratification in the winter, they won't start coming up until 2 years afterwards. So don't throw your seeds out. Don't say, oh no! Just put them in a shady place in the summer, let them go through that, keep them in that sheltered place through the winter, and you're going to have seedlings in the next year. So don't give up. Ways to figure out the protocol. Some of them, of course, are from, what I've given you. There's a really good place. Here's your website, the Native Plant Journal or Propagation place. It gives you all kinds of ideas. So you can start with what someone else has done and then go from there. A lot of it is experimentation.